The streets will never make you grow. It's not a seed, it's a gutter. There's no happy endings in this life. So this is my message to you. The streets will never love you back. The streets will never make you grow. It's not a seed, it's a gutter. There's no happy endings in this life. So this is my message to you. The streets will never love you back.
Pow. What's up, guys? Do you guys hear me? I had a little difficulty again. Give me a thumbs up if you guys hear me. Okay, good. Tommy Dades is in the chat. Well, guys, thanks again for showing up. I got Christopher Strom here today. He actually was an NYPD officer, ended up going to the military, went to Iraq, went on 110 search and destroy missions. This guy is an American hero. We're going to have him on, so we're going to enjoy his company for a little while. I appreciate everyone showing up today. To my moderators, Boston J, Live and Let Live. Miss Can't Be Wrong, I see you. Thanks for showing up. Tony Marie, Gunsmoke, Alan Langley, Frank Marcia, Boston J, Steve Sanchez, Billy Whispers, and to everyone showing up. I see Tommy Dades is in there. Now, Christopher Strom has, he wrote a book called Brooklyn to Baghdad. He's an American hero, and we have him here today, so we're going to be enjoying his company for a little while. I have some questions for him. We're going to have a fun time with him. Princess Mitch, how are you? Gary Montilone, how are you? Now, I want to start off by saying that, you know, when I first started this this channel, it was basically, you know, all about criminal stories, about me growing up and telling my stories. Now, I just wanted everyone to know, you know, we go into one direction and we find other ways to make better entertainment. And that would be like interviewing a guy like Christopher Strom, you know, a guy who was in the military, a sergeant in the NYPD, you know, and other characters throughout the course of life. So, you know, in conjunction with my Beth Avenue stories, and we punch back. So let me welcome Christopher Strom. Let me add him to the stream. Hi, Christopher. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, Jimmy. How are you?
Good. You know what? You sound great. You look great. We're going to have a good show tonight. So far, we have 72 people in the chat. I think Tommy Dades is in there too. So we'll be getting some feedback from him. And it's a pleasure to have you here today.
No, pleasure's mine, Jimmy. Thank you so much for having me. And big shout out to Tommy Dades for making the introduction.
Yeah, Tommy Dades is a real piece of work, ain't he?
He's the best. He's the best. I love him. He's unbelievable.
He really is. And I got your book here, Brooklyn to Baghdad. So, you know, I went through it a little. I didn't read the whole thing because you just sent it to me, and I appreciate you sent it to me, and you also signed it, which was very kind of you. You know, I want to show the audience that you signed it for me. So it's pretty cool, you know. Very nice. Thank you. So, you know what? Let's start your story by, you know, where do you come from? You know, were you born and raised in Brooklyn? You know, what made you become a cop? But let's start at the beginning. Where do you come from?
Well, I grew up pretty much on Long Island. My parents had gotten divorced, and I lived with my grandparents at a town called Garden City. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a pretty nice town as towns go. And, you know, I lived there with my grandparents. They raised me till I was probably about 10 years old. And then my mom got remarried, and we moved around a lot, and eventually ended up back at my grandparents' house, excuse me, in Garden City, and continued on with grammar school and high school there.
It's pretty cool because you said your parents got divorced. And
Yes.
it's something like my parents. My parents never got divorced; they got separated. But once I realized my father was gone, and I was a greater force than my mother. I mean, who was going to stop me? My direction was towards the wise guys in the neighborhood. For you, it went a better route. You became an NYPD sergeant eventually. Now what made you want to become a police officer?
Well, it was one of those things. I grew up watching TV shows and in cop shows in general, and even cowboy and Indian movies. And I always thought, that would be something that I want to do. And I know you have people from all over the world watching your show. I'm partial to the NYPD. I love the NYPD, and I think some of the things that they do are pretty special and pretty amazing. And I can remember going in and out of the city, many times with my grandparents, and just seeing them, on patrol, walking the foot post. And I said, that's something I really want to do. It was just, I had a fascination with it from a very early age.
Yeah, you know what? That's pretty cool. And look, I grew up as a young kid in the street, looking up to the bad guys, and taking a turn in my life. And now I have a lot of, ex-detectives, police officers, FBI agents that are my friends now. So I was fortunate to, become friends with them because of my past. But you're an American hero. You really are. I mean, listen. You know what? You make the face, and a lot of guys, because you're humble, and but it's the truth, because a lot of people couldn't do what you did in your life. Joining the military, going to Iraq, and you know what? These people don't understand. A lot of people don't understand in our country that there's people in other countries that are actually fighting for us. Where the reason why we could sleep good at nighttime, and that's the truth. Because if they weren't there in these other countries, watching these people, we wouldn't be so comfortable.
No, I agree with you 100%. And that's very kind of you to say that, Jimmy. I appreciate it very much.
And so let's get into how was it, becoming a sergeant in the NYPD?
Well, it's funny. I think I took the long route because I was a cop, a street cop for 13 years. And I was in Queens for the first 13 years of my career. And then as I got promoted to sergeant, I went to Brooklyn, and I was like a fish out of water. I didn't know anything about Brooklyn. Brooklyn was the place that I drove through occasionally. I really had no awareness. Although early on in my career, I started out in Coney Island in the 6-1 precinct, which was great. But I mean, I was only there a short time. I think it was probably maybe 10 weeks. And then I eventually went back to Queens in the 101 precinct in Far Rockaway. And that's where I spent the majority of my time. I had a shooting when I had about 8 years on the job. And because of that, they pulled me off the street and they said, you can't stay here in the precinct anymore. I was working anti-crime, plainclothes unit detail. And then I eventually got transferred from that into a street crime unit. And that's where I really had like probably one of the best experiences in my life in terms of doing the things that people see on TV, the car chases, the gunfights, all that kind of madness that you would see in a movie. I got to live that out courtesy of the NYPD.
And you know what? It's something, because you said you were a cop for 13 years. Now, a lot of police officers, when they join the force, what they do is they usually stay a police officer. Not too many people level up, climb the ladder and become a sergeant or a captain, and so, become bigger and bigger. What is there what kind of tests you got to take to become a sergeant?
Well, it's a pretty tough test. I mean, well, I guess it really depends on who you are in terms of intellect. For me, it was a hard test. I went to classes at night. I studied for it, and when they made the list, I was in the top half. So if there was 1,000 people on the list, I was in the 400s or 500s, something like that. but it's a difficult test. And, and as you go up the ranks even further, all the way up through captain, the tests get even harder. For me, when I had gotten promoted to sergeant and they transferred me to the 7th Precinct in Brooklyn, I ended up inheriting the street narcotics unit. And, I was loving life. I had great people. You pick a background, pick girls, guys. We just had so much fun, doing our job. And I didn't think life was ever going to get any better. I mean, I had steady days off and a very solid crew. And, then 9/11 happened, unfortunately. And, they were looking for people to go into the intelligence division. And to be honest with you, Jimmy, I didn't want to go. I was very comfortable and very sedate where I was. And I was very good at my job. And the crew that I was working with, they were amazing people and dedicated and loyal people. But I ended up going, and then now I'm in the intelligence division, and I'm like a fish out of water, so to speak, because I'm so used to being in the street and doing street operations, even as a cop, and now as a sergeant. Now I'm kind of like in a unit where there's a little bit of more nuance and a little bit more intense investigations going on. And it was, counterterrorism was high on the list of things, and I really didn't have any familiarity with that.
Yeah. In this book, okay. I first saw the suspect in the courtyard, cuffed and blindfolded. I told the soldier guarding him that I was there to interview the detainee and to please remove the blindfold so I could photograph him. What is your occupation? I asked. I am a technician. What do you do? I repair generators. Now, obviously, generators, it means something else, So I had struck gold with that response in a previous interview. The detainee from the prisoner detention facility said he also fixed generators for a living. So what is a generator?
Well, a generator, they had a reason to believe that, I'm talking about the insurgency. They believed that their cell phones were being monitored, and maybe they were, maybe they weren't, but they would speak in code. And one of the things for an IED or an improvised explosive device was a generator. So this way, if they ever got caught or, said, oh, you're a generator repairman, how funny is that? You know what I mean? But the reality was that was, they would say things like, I've repaired the generator, or I've moved the generator to so-and-so's house. And so they thought they were, getting away with it. They had like their own street language, so to speak, over in Iraq.
Let me just pull up a photo and you could tell me about this photo right here.
Yeah, well, what happens is, the people that were involved in this insurgency, for better, for worse, were university certified engineers, doctors and lawyers, and some of the people were even members of the Iraqi government. But what this is right here is, we did a weapons seizure and we rounded up a bad guy, a tier 1 guy, which is basically a target that the special forces community would go after. And this was the actual bomb maker. So he was using cell phones and cordless phones and garage door openers to detonate the bombs as the soldiers drove past in their vehicles, or if they were out on a dismounted patrol, on a foot patrol. So he was a bad guy. This was a big win for the team that I was involved with.
Because you know what? I look at all that. I see these cell phones. Now, with these cell phones, do they detonate bombs?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what they would do. And basically what they would do is they would dial the whole number, and then they would try and coordinate it and time it with the vehicle going by as to when they would hit send, and then, kill soldiers. And just for you and your audience's benefit, when I got into Iraq, it was in February 2008. So that pretty much the shooting war was over. The primary killer of the soldiers and the coalition forces was IEDs, improvised explosive devices. And the most deadly ones were being shipped in from Iran.
Wow. And now for tonight's show, I just want to let everyone know, I'm just going to ask questions regarding the book itself and not ask questions that might be sensitive or could bump up against classified information, because I know you're not going to share that with us anyway, because I mean, even to get this book out there, don't it got to go through Congress or something? Because it's all military stuff.
Well, that's a great question, Jimmy. And to answer it directly, yes. And there's a lot of legal oversight. So when I first wrote the book, it was 322 pages. I sent in the manuscript. The publisher looked at it. The editor looked at it. And then the next thing you know, the lawyers are looking at it from the publishing company. And they're like, "Hey, you really can't say this and you really can't say that." And as you'll see from some of the stories and chapters, there's some pretty colorful people in there that did some really stupid things to the point where they really compromised the soldiers' safety and security. And I'm very open about that. I tell the truth and I speak truth to power and facts. So, it's not like I'm having an opinion in this book. It's based on factual photographic evidence, physical evidence, and statements from people that the team and I, rounded up. And moreover, the interrogations I conducted on these people in Iraq.
I tell you, why? Because, you going to Iraq, I picture myself watching a movie like something with Harrison Ford and Brad Pitt. I forgot the name of the movie, but there's so much like CIA stuff going on. You have people in other countries that are working for us. It's like, it's really insane. I mean, you have to be careful of anybody because, they're all looking to kill you because you're an American. How much do they love the Americans? How much do they hate the Americans over there?
Well, it's actually a mixed bag. It's kind of a lot like what's going on in New York City. The people that are being impacted by the crime really love the cops, and the people that are running around causing all the, the madness and the insanity hate the cops for obvious reasons. So Iraq, when we first got there, was actually it was under a Shiite leader called al-Maliki, and the Shiites and the Sunnis, it's sectarian violence that was going on even before the war started. They never really got along, even though they're both from the Muslim faith. And now we have, courtesy of President Bush, he installed al-Maliki, and he was the former prime minister of Iraq, and he was exiled. Well, they brought him back, and now there's a power shift from Sunni, which is all the Arab states in the Gulf that are Sunni. We don't have any problems with. It's only the ones that are Shiite that we have a problem with. And so they are now in power, and they are feeling emboldened, and they hate the Americans. They want us to just get out of there because they want things to go back to the way they were 13 years ago before we got there. And the only way they're going to do that is that they can break the morale of the American soldier and the coalition forces by killing them randomly, indiscriminately. So,
my question to you is, because what, I read about this stuff. Obviously, I don't know too much about it. I should know more about it because it's very interesting stuff. Which terrorist group was the most brutal? You just mentioned two of them. Was it Shiite? Was it called?
Shiite and then Sunni, the two different sects of the Muslim religion. Yeah.
Yeah. So which one is more brutal?
Oh, the Shiites. They're brutal.
Really?
I mean, the Sunnis wanted a democracy, but they were under the rule of Saddam Hussein, so that wasn't going to happen. And the thought was, when the Americans came in and so-called liberated Iraq, that was going to happen. They did have elections and things like that, but the Shiite government, even to this day, is so corrupt and so infested. And you know what? There's a lot of things I could say, but a lot of the problems were born about because of the way we structured their government and the people that we helped install in the Iraqi government. And make no mistake about it, these people were killing their own people along with killing American soldiers. The money that we were giving their government was refunding the insurgency. And so when people say, "Oh, Chris, you're exaggerating," or that can't be true. No, I have the physical evidence and the photo documentation and the actual statements from the detainees, the people that were rounded up, is very true. So it's
I believe you. And I could imagine because as much as I love my country, I know the government is so corrupt. I mean, it's so true. I mean, look at people like Nancy Pelosi. Look at these people. I mean, they just have interest in all these other countries. That's what it's all about, having interest in all these other countries and making money off of them, But also, I have another question for you. Who was the one high-value target that was the most difficult to capture?
Well, there was actually a bunch of them. The team collectively rounded up 91 high-value targets. So tier 1 and tier 2. Again, for your audience's benefit, Jimmy, the tier 1 is the special forces target that they're going to execute and take, and a tier 2 also. Whatever else is like a mixed bag of people. They're franchise insurgents and things like that. So we were tracking this one cell, and it had direct ties to the Iraqi government, and the part of the Iraqi government that the cell members were card-carrying members of was called Mensa, the Ministry of National Security and Affairs. So these people were the equivalent of like an FBI agent at a government level. They had credentials. They had the ability to carry a firearm, and they made up their own list of people they want to kill. They call it EJK, or extrajudicious killings. And that was part of it. The other part was kidnapping for money and ransoms, rape. But what they were really doing was drawing up their own not only search warrants, but arrest warrants on the Sunni people, and just displacing them from their houses. And then they would assume ownership of the house and re-rent the same house back out to another Shiite family, Sunni family. It was outrageous. And this was going on, and everybody knew it was going on. And so to answer your question, that particular cell, we closed it down, but we never really got the big fish of the cell. And if you read further in the book, you'll understand why we didn't get him. I can't prove why they wouldn't let us get him, but I'm pretty sure of the fact that it was because of the politics in Washington, D.C., and it was making people look very, very bad. Like they picked some bad people to be running this country.
Yeah, I hear you on that. That's for sure. Now, I got another question here for you. Okay, I don't know too much about this. Did Team Phoenix capture or kill any high-value targets? Phoenix.
We didn't kill anybody. The team that I was involved in, we didn't kill anybody. Okay. But we captured 91 high-value targets, the tier 1 and tier 2. That doesn't account for all the other people that we rounded up. In addition to that, there's probably close to 100 of others that were not classified as a high-value target or a tier 1 or a tier 2. So, but we didn't kill anybody. Most of our operations and target acquisition happened after midnight. So most of the operations we did were at midnight. And I think everybody is kind of like seen, like what you were describing, Jimmy, like, some of these CIA movies with Harrison Ford, Patriots Day, where, you have, I don't know, maybe some overhead reconnaissance, and there's like little dots and figurines of people running around. It's very much like that. And the team that we were involved with and that we were doing the operations with primarily was this team called 122 TST, which stands for Tactical Strike Team. And that was run by a guy named Sergeant Dave Peluso, and he was amazing. And, we formed a very, very strong relationship. And it was at the point where if they had acquired a target, they weren't going to go out and action that target without the Phoenix team accompanying them on the mission.
Now, I remember the Iraq War, and Saddam Hussein, he ruled with an iron fist, this guy, right? I mean, this guy was blowtorching. You see him with the gasoline burning everything. I mean, this guy had maybe 100 cars or maybe 1,000 cars, all kinds of gold. This guy had crates of American money. And I mean, a guy like this, I mean, then you had Gaddafi too, right? Now, our money, how powerful is our money over there?
Oh, it's the gold standard. It's next to having physical gold, it's the gold standard. And when the war first kicked off, to your point, as they were raiding some of these houses, again, he was a brutal dictator. He was just an awful person. Good riddance, he's gone. But that he had several palaces and he had several brothers, and they all had tons of money and, like, pallets full shrink wrapped U.S. currency, already trying to get it out of the country, to escape. And again, whenever time somebody says we're going to go in there and do what they call nation building, right? That's code for this is going to be a disaster. It really, really is going to be a disaster, because you're dealing with an Arab culture that is so different in many ways than a Western culture. Now, I have a lot of Arab friends. I work with Jordanians. I work with Emirati people, beautiful people, intelligent people. The difference is obviously the religion, and we all get along fine. Again, Sunni. Jordanians are Sunni. Emiratis are Sunni. So all the Gulf nations pretty much get along great amongst their other countries. So we don't have an issue. But this is a country that was already Sunni. You would have thought they would have kept it Sunni, but for some reason, somebody that went to Georgetown and has never experienced culture beyond a textbook or a classroom thought it would be a good idea to reinstall a leader who arguably was just as bad as Saddam Hussein.
Yeah. I mean, these people are really bad people. I mean, and you know what? They always ask for our help. The Americans, they want our help, but they hate us. That's something like I just never understood. Like, I remember growing up, the Americans are coming. The Americans are coming. I mean, we were powerful. But you know what? Then when we get to your land, you hate us.
That's true. It's very true. It's very true. Because listen, it's a religious thing. It's a cultural thing. Like, imagine somebody coming to Brooklyn, your neighborhood, and saying, okay, there's not going to be any more Italian food. I'm just making a joke out of it. But that's kind of like what it's like. They're like, no, you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And you're like, well, we were here and we've been here for hundreds of years, thousands of years. Why should we change? Why can't we just put in a better political system, which everybody agrees would be better and fairer? But, they were educated people. They had colleges, they had great infrastructure, and unlike what people see in Afghanistan, which is really almost like watching a biblical movie. They're like in the Stone Ages. Iraq, for better or for worse, they had great infrastructure. They had running water, electricity, internet, things like that. They had transportation systems, rail systems. So, again, culturally and religiously a little bit different, but yeah, they were educated people for the most part,
How is when you're there, how is their government run by? Like I know the women don't have no say.
Well, a lot of that has changed, Jimmy. So to be fair, to answer your question, honestly, I'm not sure, because when we left, they were having elections in Iraq, I'm speaking of, and they were allowing women to vote. Kids always went to schools. They still, from my understanding, is in the schools, they separate the boys from the girls. They have separate schools that they go to. But my understanding is they do have elections, but the elections are so fraught with, I'll give you an example. So we were looking for this one guy. Again, we never got him. His name was Mutada al-Sadr. So his father was a religious scholar, and he was also a big power broker when Saddam was around, but he wanted to unseat Saddam. And he's also a Shiite. So fast forward, the father dies. The son now is in exile in Iran. He comes back, and he's in a place called Sadr City, named after his father. So what he was doing was he was providing safe harbor for all the terrorists that were either from Iran or they were from Syria or even homegrown franchise Al-Qaeda fighters from Iraq. So it was so bad, and I know this might come as a surprise to you, but it's true. It became the first sanctuary city in the Middle East because the army, and I'm just going to say the military period, doesn't matter if it was the Army or the Marine Corps or whatever, it was hands off. You could not go in that city and action a target, even if you knew physically or through some kind of electronic surveillance that the bad guy you were looking for was in Sadr City. It was almost like when you were a kid playing, tag, like, no, home free, I'm on base. I'm not out, that kind of a thing. Yeah. And when somebody blows up a vehicle and kills a soldier or many soldiers in that case, and where he is, it's like the police department. Can you imagine if the police department said, yeah, we can't go to Bensonhurst, so we can't go to Bayside, Queens, or wherever it is. because that's an off limits city. And they're like, well, we're in a war. I mean, what does that mean? And so that's some of the frustration, but some of the politics that are involved in fighting a war with one hand behind your back, and that just goes on even to this day.
And that's what it's all about, I guess. Fighting it over there, not fighting it over here, right?
Yes, correct.
That's what it's all about. But let me I'm going to throw up another photo. Is this your unit or brigade?
Those are my friends. These are Sergeant Dave's crew. This is 122 TST, Tactical Strike Team, and you get close to these kids. I call them kids. They're not kids, obviously, Jimmy, but I mean it with great affection and respect. I was 48 years old at the time when I was working with these young guys and girls, and we spent a lot of time with them. They would come to our shop. We'd have these huge barbecues, and if you can imagine, these guys, again, now they're taking down targets that are pretty much for the special forces community. Well, they're very popular now on the base because everybody knows, just like when you're a cop in the NYPD and you make a big collar or a gun collar or there's a chase involved, and you come in there, people, that word gets around. You don't need an internet for that to get around. And so to be part of them being successful and seeing how they felt about themselves and seeing how their peers felt about them on the base in the chow hall, like, they're like the top dogs now. They're like, oh, did you hear about 122? They grabbed another guy or another girl, and the level of satisfaction and emotion that you feel for them is very gratifying. It's so amazing.
Now, when you were serving, right? And thank you for serving, and all those military kids out there, thank you for serving. Stay safe and stuff like that. Watch your back, watch each other's back. But you said you didn't want to go when you were a sergeant. They said, you know what, we need you over here, but you were very comfortable where you were. What made you make the decision to go? Well,
I had retired from the police department. I had a great career. And in the book, you'll hear about Tommy Dades over and over again, because I look at him as not only a great friend, but a true mentor and just a genius when it comes to Italian organized crime. As you know, he's just amazing, his ability to put people in places and link things together. And I had retired, and I thought, well, I'm going to just move down to Virginia and lead a very quiet life doing home remodeling. And it lasted about 6 months. And then I saw what was going on TV with the war, and I was getting frustrated. So I started applying for some different jobs, and I eventually get called by a recruiter, and they asked me if I want to, go to Iraq. And the initial job was going to be, an advisor to like a brigade commander and look at the insurgency from a law enforcement perspective and say, hey, we should start attacking this like a criminal enterprise as opposed to doing a whack-a-mole type of a thing. And they asked me if I was interested, and they said yes. So I fast forward, I get into the onboarding and the orientation. I'm in there for about 2 weeks. And I get called again now to the program manager's office at the training site that I'm at. And, he brings me in, and there's two other guys that came in with me, and he goes, relax, you guys aren't in trouble. So we sit down, and he says, all right, you know what you're here for, but we want to pitch you another idea about this other program called the Phoenix Team. And basically now, not just being in a static facility, giving like verbal and guidance and technical expertise to the commander, I'm going to be going out on live combat missions, and I'm going to be doing interrogations at the point of capture with the bad guy. And they said, this is voluntary. You don't have to do this. Is this something that you want to do? And I'm saying in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, like, is this guy kidding me? Like, I'm really going to get to do this? I'm like, I'm in. I'm totally in, 100%.
That's great. You stepped up to the plate. I appreciate it. Now, I have this other photo I'm gonna pull up. Tell me what you're doing over here. I think you're in this photo. You have some straps around this guy's arms. What is this all about?
Well, this guy was involved in a roadside bomb that thankfully didn't kill the soldiers, but we captured him contemporaneously to the explosion. And all I'm doing is talking to him. I want to be clear. I didn't get physical with people. I only used verbal commands and a bunch of other things. But he is like terrified of me because he knows that it's done. He's done. and he's going to jail. And I think one of the other pictures, if you have it, Jimmy, will kind of like show the story of what there's like a blown up vehicle and there's a bunch of soldiers standing in front of it. Those are the guys that survived the attack and also captured this guy as he was trying to run away from the scene. So my job when I got there, the vehicle was actually still on fire. No, it's a different one, I think, Jimmy. That's it right there. When they detonated the IED, thank God it hit the front of the car or the vehicle. It's an MRAP, and they all survived. But the guy with the long rifle, when this guy was running away, he made it known that if he took another step, that he probably was going to go to heaven very quickly.
Mm-hmm. I tell you, you know what? It must be a very dangerous place over there.
Yeah, it was very dangerous. But you know what though, Jimmy? It's like anything else. You're so focused and you have so much adrenaline running through you that it's really only after you come back, after you do a mission or a rotation, that you kind of look at it and go, wow, what just happened? You know what I mean? But you become like an adrenaline junkie, quite honestly. I mean, I have to be honest about that as well, because it's so exciting and you feel like you're doing something, even though at the end of the day you're not going to save the world and change the war completely, but you got your win. And the kids that the soldiers that we work with, they got their win and they feel good about themselves. And I'll take that to the bank any day of the week, because that's an unattainable experience emotionally to see that with them.
I can imagine. And you know what? That guy that you pulled over, he had the ties around him. Now, someone like him, what happens to a guy like him?
Well, they end up going into a detention facility. I mean, I did a quick interrogation, of course. He said he didn't have anything to do with it. We did a search of the building he was in. We found material that linked him directly to the bomb. We found other electronic devices. I'm not going to get into great detail about that. And we did an explosive residue test on him, and he tested positive for a form of nitrate, which was the same type of explosive device that was used for the roadside bomb. So, he's bought and paid for. What ends up happening, after he leaves me, it's hard to say. It's a mixed bag. It's kind of like, are they going to keep him in jail forever? Is he ever going to go to trial? Are they going to flip him against, like how they do in traditional law enforcement? It's really a mixed bag of what really goes on, Jimmy.
I mean, they could even kill him.
Well, it's funny, you're out there with sometimes, not always, but sometimes on this particular mission, we weren't, but sometimes it would be accompanied by Iraqi soldiers that we had trained. We spent billions of dollars training, and, depending on what religion they are, I would ask this person, are you Sunni or Shia? Which in traditional law enforcement, you could never ask those questions on the street side interview. And he would say, one way or the other, Sunni or Shia. I'm like, oh, well, the soldier over there, he happens to be a Shiite if he said he was Sunni, and I would play one against the other. And I said, I don't know what your answers are going to be, but maybe they should be a little bit more direct and more responsive. Otherwise I'll just let him ask you the questions. So
yeah. And you know what? All right. So you went on 110 search and destroy missions. Tell me about a search and destroy mission. What is a search and destroy mission?
Well, basically what we would do is we would identify a target, and I'm not going to get too detailed about it. One of the people that was on the team was this fellow by the name of Matt Pacino. And if you look on the cover, on the inside cover of the book,
I read that. Yes,
it's in memory of my friend Matt, because he got killed, unfortunately, not with us, but with his special forces team in Afghanistan. But Matt was the genius of the team and the engine of the team, and he would develop a target. And again, when you develop a target, it's a lot like pitching a search warrant to a judge. It's got to get signed off at some command staff level. And once you get the green light for that, now it's a question of, can we find this guy? So if he became active, and I'll just let people use their own imagination, we would go and we would roll out and we would try and find this person. And some of these people are pretty clever. If they knew they would be, you're coming in like 8 vehicles deep, so they make a lot of noise. And if you're in a a closed environment and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, sometimes they would run. They call them a squirter. So they would, literally be now involved in a foot chase trying to catch this guy. You know what I mean? And but other ones were basically what you would see, like what they call house clearing, house to house. So we would identify the target, find the house. They would breach the door. Sometimes the door wouldn't open. It's very similar to sometimes how drug dealers would reinforce their doors. So they would blow the door off with a shotgun, literally, just shoot it off. And then, people inside the house would be screaming, the women and children and all that. And we would separate, obviously, the men and women. And my job now became, can I identify who this person is? They call it positive ID or PID. And so sometimes I would have a targeting package that had a lot of information. And sometimes I would just have 2 pages and a silhouette. There's not a face, and it's just a nickname because that's what he's using in his coded language. And so through the process of elimination and different interrogation techniques, and then physical evidence that could tie him to the insurgency as the house is being searched, we would wrap him up and take him back. And then he would sit in a detention facility. From that, I would process the evidence that we collected from the house. And I'm talking about volumes of evidence and explosive related material, DVDs with propaganda on there that showed soldiers being killed that they would spread around to help, recruit, young, disenfranchised Iraqi males. And it was just nonstop. So we would leave the base out on a typical hop, probably around 11 o'clock. We'd get back at 6 o'clock, and the processing and the evidence and turnover of the prisoner, by the time it was all said and done, would be like 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Wow. And, you say you lost your friend. I read it in the book. You gave him a shout out. I mean, it must be hard to make friends with all these people. You're all protecting each other. And you know what? Some of them are not returning home. I mean, how do you live with that? I mean, because look, I got PTSD from the things I've been through in my life. It's just, I can see, you guys going to another countries, you know what you're in for. You can't trust anything. They hate the Americans, but you're also protecting these people. There's a lot of them you're protecting, and a lot of them don't want you there. But a lot of guys are not coming home. How do you I know that breaks your heart, but how do you live with it?
It's tough, Jim. Listen, anyone, when you love somebody, whether it's a family member or a soldier or a cop or a member of your crew, and you get attached to them, you break bread with these people, these young people, it's terribly disheartening. And I just want to say this about Matt. Matt was not only a genius, but he was from Boston. So there was this whole, Red Sox, Yankees thing constantly going on. He was Italian. His last name is Pacino, from a big Italian family, incredibly handsome guy, incredibly smart guy, big picture guy. And the team was never really the same once he left. There was a guy that replaced him, and he was a great guy, and he did his best. But Matt was operating at a totally different level of efficiency and exacting techniques. And Matt had communication skills where some of the other people in the team had no communication skills or poor communication skills. And what I mean by that is, not only was Matt intelligent and charismatic, but he knew what he was talking about. He wasn't just like whipping out ideas and fairy tales. Like, he knew who this bad guy was. He tracked him, linked him. And when you're presenting that to a commander who's very risk adverse and doesn't even want you working with the soldiers, much less doing a mission with them, Matt was excellent at that. That was Matt's biggest selling point, and that's what made the team so successful. Because prior to that, the guys that were doing Matt's job and then the guys that did it after Matt's job, they really sucked. Well, I shouldn't say that. The guy that followed after Matt didn't suck, but he wasn't operating at the same level as Matt. But the guy before him, he sucked. He was terrible.
And you know what? That's the thing. You got these young kids coming in. They're joining the military today, and they really don't know anything. Actually, a friend of mine's son just joined the Air Force a couple months ago. He went down to I think Texas. He had to stay there for maybe 2-3 months or something. And
I think your sound cut out, Jimmy. I'm not sure.
how about now?
I hear you now. I hear you fine. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, it might go in and out. But yeah, my question was, you know, these young kids that are going into the military today, you know,
I think it cut out again, Jim. I'm sorry. I see you, Jimmy, but I don't know if you can hear me.
get off the internet.
I think it's on your end because I can see you fine. I just can't hear you, and your picture is freezing. I think. I don't know.
Yes.
There it goes.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're back. Yeah,
Okay.
that's I got 3 kids upstairs with playing with the internet. But now, yeah, all the time. But my question was, these young kids today that are joining the military. Now, you look like you're a structured guy. That's old school. You know, I can see you're tough. You know, you come from a different time. What do you like these kids today? The military back in the day, when you went in, they made you into a man. You know, how is it today, the military?
Well, I feel bad for the soldiers today, and if, you know, when I say soldiers, I mean everybody. You know, whether it's the Army, Marine Corps, Air Force, Navy. Their leadership in the military has failed them. You know, they're talking about white supremacy in the military. We have Lloyd Austin, the Secretary of Defense, saying that he's going to rout out all the white supremacists and that there's systemic racism in the military. I mean, like, when you're a soldier or you're a Marine, and you're hearing that day in and day out, not just from him, they're hearing it also from General Milley, who's really, I could go on and on about him. And then you couple that with the president and the disaster of a withdrawal in Afghanistan. You got to be saying to yourself, do I really want to stay in here for 20 years? Or moreover, if you have 20 years, do I want to stay any longer? So it's a tough road. I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps. I loved it. I'm still in touch with many of my friends from the Marine Corps. And this is back in 1978. That's how far back this goes, Jimmy. And you're right. It is a different era, and it is a different walk of life, and people treat each other differently. But I will tell you this. When somebody says that there's systemic racism in the military, or somebody calls me a white supremacist or a racist, you know, theoretically, that's insulting. That's really, really insulting. It's a horrible thing to say. And moreover, it's not true. It's just not true. But they're having cultural awareness training, critical race theories being taught at command staff level in the military. I mean, like, the military now has got some serious issues. And if it doesn't right itself soon, pretty much, I think nobody's going to want to go into it anymore, because they're going in for as an ideal of something that they want to do better, you know, greater than themselves, you know, some selfless act. And right now, it's kind of like the police department. There's a recruitment issue with many other branches of the military because of what's going on today in this government, in this particular administration.
Yeah, because you know, just look, I was born 1969, so I see a lot different compared to when I was a kid. I mean, back in the day, if you committed a crime, in all honesty, you were lucky if you made it to the police station. Seriously. The cops will give you a beating. They'll lump you up if you did not. I'm not saying all of them, but it was a different time. Growing up back in the day, you had to be tough to grow up. Today, it's like back in the day, 3 of my friends could probably take on 30 of these guys' friends today. The kids growing up. It's the way the kids are growing up. It's insane, So, the military back in the day, we were known to be so strong. The Americans are coming, and they made a man out of you. And you had these military, offices on maybe certain corners where you go in and you could sign up, and they took that all away. It's a different world today.
Yeah, unfortunately, I agree with you. It is totally different, and again, it's a calling too. Listen, let's be honest. If you go into the military, you know what you're signing up for, okay? And it's a lot like going into the police department. You kind of know what you're signing up for. But when you sign up for this, you expect there to be some leadership involved in the process, and that's where we're failing these young people, because it's not that they're bad necessarily, but they have poor leadership. And the people that are, listen, I have this conversation with Tommy and a bunch of other people, my cop buddies. When you wear the leadership hat, you need to wear it right, not cockeyed. Okay. So when somebody says to you that's above you, this is what we're going to do. And let's just say, for argument's sake, it's of a safety concern. It's dangerous, and it doesn't have to be that way, or the precautions aren't in place. It's incumbent upon the person that's below that higher rank, that's in charge of this operation, or the troops, to say, hey, listen, I don't think we should do that, because that's kind of a bad idea, and here's why. Why don't we try and do it this way? And, depending on the person's communication skills, and depending on the person that's above him and their willingness to listen, will determine the outcome. But at the end of the day, if it's of such magnitude that the safety is compromising the mission and the soldier's safety, then somebody has to stand up and say, I'm not doing this. If you want to throw me out of the military or lock me up, or I'll just resign, here's my commission or whatever, something like that should be done, because these people are getting carried away with themselves, and they're putting these kids, and they're not kids, obviously, they're beautiful young men and women, they're putting them at risk, and they're not providing leadership for them.
And that's where it all starts, the leadership. You're right about that. Now, this is a chapter 9, Under Attack. I just want to read a quick excerpt here. March 20th, 2008, the phone rang. An IED had detonated, killing 1 soldier and wounding another. We rolled to the scene to search for secondary devices. In weekday morning traffic, it took us 15 minutes to get there. As a standing order at intersections, the lead vehicle peeled off, holding back traffic for the rest of the convoy. The process repeated itself in a leapfrog fashion. When we pulled onto the block where the explosion had hit, the pedestrian traffic was moderate, with most of the children standing close to their elders. Now, when something like that happens, a bomb goes off, I could only imagine the outrage, the insanity, people running and screaming, how did you deal with all that?
Well, again, everybody's got their assignment, and you just kind of focus in on what are you going to do. So for me, I'm happy if there's anybody standing around to ask what happened before the event. What did you see? It's just very basic police work, really. And, you'd be surprised what people tell you. Moreover, I know this won't surprise you because you came from the street and you're from Brooklyn, but kids see everything and kids tell you everything. You know what I mean? They're like the eyes and ears. They're almost like the old lady, so to speak, that sits on the stoop. She knows everything that's going on the block too, but so do the kids, because the kids are always in the street. And many times, you get to a scene like that, and I would gravitate toward, a kid, because the kids were fascinated with the soldiers. We wore identical uniforms as the soldiers, and we always carried tons of sucker candy in our pockets, hard like rock candy that we would give them, and they would just tell you everything, you know, or they would tell you I didn't see it, or whatever the case was. But that was my job, you know. Obviously, looking at the scene and the gravity of the scene, the fact that somebody was actually killed and there's quite a bit of blood, and a lot of times, unfortunately, with these IEDs, there's not much left of anybody except the shoes. Unfortunately, it's incredible the force and the impact of some of these bombs that were being used against people.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you the question, but you answer it. These kids, they look at you and you say you have some kind of rock candy and stuff like that. I was going to say, like, these kids, I'm sure they ask you for things, like, I don't know, some American money, a quarter, or something like that. I mean, because I see these movies or on TV, whenever you go to another country, you always got these little kids always asking you for something.
No, it's true. It's true. And again, it's a natural curiosity. And, my kids were young at the time. So to see kids and see them playing and happy and things like that, it kind of makes you homesick a little bit. Again, there was some sadistic people over there that were actually taking children and strapping on suicide vests to the children. So you always had that in the back of your mind, but it was I think it was overblown a little bit. The children that were doing that, a lot of them were teenagers of teenage age, in their 14s, teens, 15, 16. When you have like a young child, boy and girl coming up to you and they're 6, 7 years old, I mean, you're pretty much able to size them up pretty quickly, whether or not they have a suicide vest on. And again, is it a safety concern? It is, but it was a risk that pretty much we were all willing to take, because how else are we going to get the information? Because sometimes you go to an older person and then they want to say anything, and the women you really couldn't talk to unless they had their husband there with them, or a direct relative or a brother, so they wouldn't talk to you anyway. So the kids were great. It was, if you got a hold of one that actually saw what happened, they were a wealth of information.
Yeah. Now this photo over here, what is this now? Is this a prisoner? What's going on over here?
Yeah, this is a prisoner that we were looking for. We found him. He was actually in a safe house. And who knew they would be this sophisticated? They move around from one place to another. They have houses that they look like they're abandoned, but they're actually, fully equipped with, beds and food and refrigerators and air conditioning and things like that. So I took that picture of him because he was giving me the runaround. I generally take pictures of people. And again, this is how we found him. It's not like I took his clothes off and took this picture. But I was very, very, very direct about taking pictures of all my prisoners at the point of capture, because I want them to be photographed how they were found, so they can't make an allegation later like, oh, the soldiers beat me. I want to see if they have tattoos or scars that could be related to some group that they're with. The scars could be indicative of that maybe he was a soldier at one point and got blown up himself, or shrapnel. So I made it a point to take pictures of everybody that we captured.
And that's the thing of today too. You know what? Back in the day, these people are detonating bombs, they're killing people, and you just made a good point, a value point, where you take them, you find them, and then right away they're making allegations that you did something to them. So you have to take a photo of how you found them, and to make sure that they can't lie. I'm saying, I mean, this is what's going on today in this world. Everything is allegations. You have to do everything so proper. Oh
yeah, absolutely. And when we first got there, the ability to round up a target and action a target was because of Matt, was pretty easily done because of Matt. When Obama came in, they changed what they called the status of forces agreement, which put the Army on its heels, and basically there was a whole different operating procedure put into place. And so now where we did solo operations with the 122 TST, now we're forced to do a joint operation, and we're having to have judges sign off on search warrants, and they're doing things like Miranda, doing a prisoner intake form. Did the soldiers mistreat you? What did they speak? I mean, it's like, we're in a war zone, and it's like, I'm all for treating people with respect, but we're here to win. And if we're not here to win, we should just go home. We shouldn't be here anymore, because at this point in time, it was just getting sillier and sillier, Jimmy, by the day. It really was.
And you know what? That's the thing. You know what? You sign up to do a job, but you can't even do your job.
No. And again, can you imagine fighting a boxing match? You know what I mean? And the guy goes down, and they're like, all right, go stand in the corner until he gets back up. That's kind of like what they were doing. This is a war. This should be more like MMA. Like, this guy's either submitting or I'm just going to keep beating on him. Not that we beat on anybody, but the mindset and the analogy is that we're here to win. We're not here to make friends. We're here to protect ourselves, round these people up, and find the next link in this cell and wrap it up.
And this is the reason why we're losing the war, because we can't do a job.
Exactly.
That's why we're losing wars, because we can't do our job the way it's supposed to be done. I mean, it's all there's a certain way to do it. You got to be Mr. Nice Guy, and you can't be Mr. Nice Guy when you're taking down people like that. But this is chapter 16, Crushing Demons. Second week of August, 21:30 hours. Just as I'd settled my mind for a quiet evening, a knock came at the door. And by now, we all knew what that meant. I was running on fumes, working on 3 hours sleep in the last 24 hours, evening duty, then something about helicopters landing and taking off all fucking night. Paul, I said, sorry, Chris, I know you need a day off. Don't worry about it. I understand. I said, Maud, and a high five. We got it. We become essential in the task order. Our hit potential had the attention of division headquarters. We were valued asset with proven results. So, you did your job. You did your job well.
Yeah, I did. And again, I'm part of a team. This isn't the Chris Strom show. I want to be clear about that.
Of course,
the success of the team is because of the team and everybody pulling together. But again, I was 48 years old when I'm doing this, so I need a little bit more sleep than I probably did when I was 28 years old, or 20 years old for that matter. But again, you're living on this adrenaline, and you don't want to miss an opportunity, because if you delay on actioning the target, they're mobile. They don't stay static. And again, hence what I was talking about with the safe houses. They move around, and they're pretty sophisticated in terms of what they call operational security. So they know what they have to do to minimize their footprint, so to speak, so that we can't find them. And but when you catch them, it's almost like, it's like internally, again, watching the excitement on the soldiers' faces, how they felt about themselves. I mean, you put all that other stuff aside about I'm a little tired. I could always catch another nap somewhere along the line. So
now, at the age of 48, you're in the military. I'm 52, so it's around the same age. I mean, 4 years off. But you got all these young kids looking up to you. I mean, they could be 21, 23 years old, regardless of anything. They're still kids.
Yes.
And these kids can lose their lives, God forbid, at any moment because of where they are. I mean, anything could pop off at any time, So what would be your advice today to give the younger generation about thinking about joining the military?
I have mixed emotions about that, Jimmy, because the military was great to me. I love the Marine Corps. When I introduce myself and find another fellow Marine in an audience or in a social setting, it's like meeting an old friend, even though we've never met before. So I have a great affinity for the Marine Corps and the military and soldiers, period. I mean, they're the best people in the world, guys and girls. In terms of joining right now, I'll put it in more closer to home. If my son was to say, I want to join the Marine Corps, what do you think, Dad? I would be like, let's hold off for a while right now, because this administration can't unscrew itself. They're like the gang that can't shoot straight. And I don't want to have that on my conscience, as you say, God forbid. He's young, he's 21, and something happened to him. And now I'm like, yeah, because I pushed him that way. And I don't want that on my conscience. So I would say to anyone that's thinking about it, it is a great career path. It's opened a lot of doors for me in my life. It has sustained me. Let me just be clear about the Marine Corps. Had I not gone into the Marine Corps, I would have gotten into a lot of trouble. I was getting into trouble because, like you mentioned before, your dad wasn't in your life. My dad really wasn't in my life. Again, when I say he wasn't in my life, he didn't live under the same roof. He didn't live in the same state. So I saw him occasionally on weekends, maybe once or twice a month. But the Marine Corps saved my life because the Marine Corps made it known to me that whatever you do in life, if you want it, you can do it, but you're going to have to work for it. And nothing came easy in my life. I didn't have a trust fund. Nobody paid my way through college, and nobody gave me money for a down payment on a house. I mean, everything that I have because I worked for it, like I'm sure you did. And the thing is that when you come from that mindset, and that is about work ethic, and which I carry with me to this day, that has sustained me. So that's the good thing about the military, and in particular the Marine Corps. The bad thing now, obviously, again, I'm going full circle, is this administration is awful. And I feel for anybody that's actively serving or thinking about going in to make it a career choice.
It's leadership, it's leadership. But yeah, I agree with you too. The Biden administration is a big disappointment for sure. But this book is it's a great book. Brooklyn to Baghdad, Christopher Strom. Pick it up. How can we pick up this book?
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. It's available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, Target. You can go to, if you have a local bookstore. There's not too many of them around anymore, unfortunately. If you go to a local bookstore and ask for it, they can order it through my publisher, which is Chicago Review Press. If people want to reach out to me and get a signed copy, I'm available on social media. I love meeting people and talking about the book. If somebody's having a corporate or a private event or need a speaker to talk about my experience, talk about leadership in law enforcement, I'm happy to put my butt in a car and drive or fly in a plane to go to wherever it is that they want me to come.
Plug your social media.
Yeah, it's Facebook is just my name, Christopher Strom. My other Facebook is Brooklyn to Baghdad. Instagram is Brooklyn to Baghdad, and I just joined Truth Social, which is President Trump's social media platform, and that's under Brooklyn to Baghdad as well. So anybody wants to reach me or see some of my writings or activities or things that I've done in the past interviews, that's where they can find me.
There you go, people. You have access to Christopher Strom right here. He has a social media. Just reach out to him. If you want a signed copy, he'll give you a signed copy of Brooklyn to Baghdad. I mean, the guy, he fought for our country. He was a sergeant at NYPD. I mean, you got to give it to him. He's a class act. Chris, thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. And I enjoyed this, conversation we had.
Thank you so much, Jimmy. I really appreciate you having me on your show. It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure having you, and thank you so much for the book. I'm definitely going to finish reading it, and have a great night, and I'll see you soon for sure.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Jimmy.
Thanks, Chris. God bless.
God bless.
Bye-bye. Christopher Strom, class act, fought for this country. And thank you for that interview, Chris. It meant a lot to me. To all the people out there who fight for this country and stand up for this country, thank you so much. I'm not too much crazy about the government, but the country I do love. And yes, he is a great guy for sure. Thank you all for showing up and hanging out in the chat and enjoying the show with Chris. I really appreciate it. Now, I really wanted to say also, I started this channel as a criminal channel, memories, crime stories of my life. But in the course of that, you go in one direction and you change it up because there's more interested people in the world that I would like to talk to, whether we call it an interview or a conversation, just sitting down with somebody, just like anyone in the chat. Mob Talk Podcast, Eddie G, I see you, Gaetano Bracco, anyone in the chat that is watching, your life story is interesting to me too, because all of us have an interesting story. And Miss Can't Be Wrong, thank you. Jimmy, keep on doing what you're doing. I appreciate that. Miss Can't Be Wrong, that's very kind of you. Boston J, thank you for showing up. My guy, Tommy Dades, I hope you're feeling better, Tom. I love you. You know that. You're a class act. Sandra Guest, thank you. And to all the people out there. Jimmy, who we got tomorrow? God bless, bro. Tomorrow, I have, not tomorrow, it's probably going to be Saturday, Mike Cadella. Mike Cadella is an ex-detective DEA agent. He's going to be on the show. He is now Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu 4th degree black belt. He has a very interesting story. And we're going to have him on probably Saturday night. So I'm looking forward to that too, because he has tons of stories. And he's a badass too in Jiu-Jitsu. But it was great having Christopher Strom on, Brooklyn to Baghdad. See if you could pick up this book. I'm telling you, it's a good read. Let's check it out. An NYPD intelligence cop fights terror in Iraq. I mean, it's a really good story. It is. I have to finish this book for sure. But it was great having him on. Like he said, you could reach out to him. If you want to order a copy, go to his social media. He'll actually sign it, and he'll send it to you. Graffiti Mouth, I see you. Joey D. What's up, Joey D? Gunsmoke, I see you. Don Berlin. As I said when I was on the air, Chris is the best, tough job and horrible danger, and came home to tell the story. Yes, he did. That's why, when you're interviewing a guy like this, went to go fight in Iraq, and his career as NYPD at the age of 48 years old, going to Iraq, search and destroy missions. I mean, you know what? These are tough questions, and you want to ask questions where they don't just hit home, because when you go through so many things in your life, I've been through things in my life, and when I talk about things, it really affects me to talk about it. There's some things, in all honesty, I really don't want to talk about because it bothers me. So the questions are hard to put out there because you just don't want to hit home. Live and Let Live, PGM Justice, I see you. Pat Travellino. Jimmy, you outdid yourself tonight. Want to know what's an interview? Thank you. I appreciate it. Gerard. This was an outstanding show. Thank you. Thank all you guys out there. Listen, you guys definitely are the best followers, subs, family members, friends out there. I appreciate all you do for me. You actually help me a lot, like I'm helping you. And I haven't gave you any Beth Avenue stories. And I got to start giving you Beth Avenue stories again, okay? I got a couple over here that I wrote down because there's I go into my journals, okay? And I look a lot of things that I wrote. And with everything that goes on in your life, whether it's taking care of your kids, driving your kids to school, going to work, running to the grocery store, you forget some things. And then I go into my journals and then I remember them again. But I'm definitely going to give you a Beth Avenue story tomorrow. I know you guys need one. And look forward to that. I'll definitely give you one tomorrow for sure. Jimmy, you do realize that your show is taking new directions and has no doubt this will keep growing and getting better. Thank you, Gary. I appreciate that. And you know what? That's what I want to do. I want to go in a different direction. I don't want, I really don't feel like I'm in this mob tube thing. I mean, I never shouted out. I don't want to be a part of it like that. I just really want to tell my stories like I've been telling, do some interviews with people, have some conversations on here, and give good content. That's what I want to do. I didn't come here for the drama. I know a lot of people like that. They like the drama. They want to live off of my name. They want to hashtag Calandra and stuff like that. I don't want no drama with these people. I don't even know these people. They continue to mention my name. And I don't even want to know these people. So they're not going to be able to talk to me. There's so many people on YouTube that can actually sit down with me and have a conversation with me, because if I don't know you, I don't want to know you. I mean, you could call out my name all you want. I'm not going to give you a reaction. As you see what went on over here with this guy, Nicholas Calcalone, however you pronounce his name. He was a white supremacist, and he was shouting out and smearing people's names. And he got exposed of what he was. That wasn't, everyone thinks that's my doing. You want to give me credit for it? No problem. I'll take credit for it. I really don't care. But the thing is, this is what it comes down to. You know what? Stop bashing people, okay? Everybody has a past, and karma is right around the corner, okay? What comes around goes around. That's why I always say, be kind to people, okay? Give respect to people, because you don't know what that person is going through in his or her life. Just waking up every day is a hard thing. It's not easy. PJM Justice, I love you too. I appreciate that. Hopefully we get together soon. Edwin Jimenez, I see you. Edwin Jimenez is funny. YouTube will never love you back. It's the truth. YouTube will never love you back. That's funny. Let's see. Who else? Boston J. That's the truth, Edwin. YouTube will never love you back. Jimmy, some people are just cowards. Well, we know that. Thanks, Tom. We know that already. You're one of the nicest mob guys ever. Hard to believe what you used to do, right? Peace out, Jimmy. I was always one of the nicest guys, even in my crew. They would tell you that. Tommy Reynolds would tell you, Fabrizio, I'm the guy who always made you laugh. Jimmy, what is the link to Tommy Date's sit down with you and Scarpa's daughter? That, I actually took it down, that link. I'm going to keep it down. I'm going to edit some stuff out. I'll put it back up someday. Anyone need a good laugh? Well, to everyone that came out, I hope you enjoyed the show. Tomorrow I'll put out a Betharian story. I love you guys. You guys are the best. I appreciate you so much. And, thank you for the support. Thank you for the love. You mean a lot to me. With that said, tomorrow's another day. Everyone have a good night. And like I said, be kind, God first, and respect people. It's the best thing to do. Respect people. Give people respect. Love you guys. Bye.
The streets will never make you grow. It's not a seed, it's a gutter. There's no happy endings in this life. So this is my message to you. The streets will never love you back.